And so after we're done, recording of this will be able to go out. Again, if you're not familiar with me or you haven't met me before, I'm Steve Terrell, and you're in my home office right now in Pflugerville, Texas, which is a very interesting little town in itself, but that's where I am. One of the questions that comes frequently in consults with me is that people will say, I feel like I'm stuck. I feel like something has happened. They're not progressing. Everything looks the same. And one thing that we don't always point out, or we're maybe not thinking about, is physiologically and within everyone's body is this concept of homeostasis. And homeostasis is fascinating because, homeostasis keeps our blood flowing, keeps body temperature, it regulates hormones, fluid levels, a whole lot of different things within the system. But it also works from a set point. A set point is where it's normal. So when clients come to see us and we hear about their story of developmental trauma, or we're hearing about what may or may not have happened in their early lives, or what's going on, we may think, as a clinician, we may be going, or as a healer, we may say, well, there's lots of things off because your cost of doing business is really, really high. And the cost of doing business is based on how much or those defensive accommodations you're using, how much you're over in this other area and you're maintaining. Remembering, that we lean heavily on polyvagal theory. And in polyvagal theory, or in any theory, the sympathetic rises and the parasympathetic meets it and brings it down and keeps it in a normal range. Parasympathetic rises during threat, and the sympathetic does, and then the parasympathetic comes in, meets it, and says, everything's okay, calm down, and it calms down. Well, if you have developmental trauma, you probably exhausted that system in the first few days of life, or maybe from the moment of conception, you exhausted that system. And so what you do is you begin to create almost a faux type of parasympathetic response. We develop, especially as adults, we really get into defensive accommodations, and we're pulling those down, whether that's alcohol or drugs or isolation or oppositional defiance or ADHD or whatever it happens to be. We're pulling that down, and that becomes kind of like a faux parasympathetic, because that now meets the sympathetic and pushes it down. Because at the end of the day, we all want to appear, quote unquote, normal. So when that client's coming into your office, they're already normal. Their system said, okay, we've had all of these ruptures early on. There were maybe from conception, maybe inherited trauma. We have all of these ruptures coming about. But what we know is that we come into these ruptures and we look at them, the system begins to regulate and create a set point based on experience. So if I'm 20 years old or 40 years old or 100 years old, it doesn't matter, or 3 days old, my system is going to a set point, and that set point is a normal range. So if we imagine on a line of continuation, we have a 0, and 0 is set point, and it goes 1, 2, 3, and -1, 2, 3. And we know there's a range. So the set point is a range. And just for the learning experience, let's imagine it's 3 plus or minus. So 0 plus or minus. So here's this normal range. So no matter what the body does, or psychologically how it's responding to life and how it's maintaining, is coming back to that 0, 1, 2, 3, or that 3, 0 plus or minus 3 range. That's the set point. So here you come along as the healer, the clinician, whatever title you want to call yourself, You come along and you say, wait a minute, I'm going to bring on regulation. And if I increase your system into better regulation, you're going to need less defensive accommodations, and your system is going to be able to go, oh, okay, this is a new normal. Well, that doesn't happen in one session, very rarely. So when they come in and they're at 0, for instance, and you do regulation work and they move over to a new 0, it moves over, maybe 4 becomes the 0, and we have a new set point, it within hours or days will revert back to the original set point. And you're thinking, oh, what am I doing wrong here? What am I doing wrong as a clinician? Well, you're not doing anything wrong. Moving set point in homeostasis takes time and consistency. It takes building that relationship, creating that safe haven, being the secure base, working in proximity maintenance, understanding proximity maintenance differently than you may have learned it before. Understanding that when someone dissociates on your table and they drift away, that's proximity maintenance. You let them go. And when they come back, you greet them. I am right here with you. I'm right here. Building that proximity maintenance. Feeling a bit of a protest, feeling a bit of distress around separation from you. You have to build that really intimate relationship with them. You come in as the surrogate parent to do this early platform repair. And so in doing that, you will begin to move the set point more gently, and it'll have more trust and more safety. And then the client's going to have this new set point. They're moving from the normal that they're living with to a new normal. And in the new normal, I don't have to use as many defensive accommodations. The cost of business lowers, but there's a trick to it. Because as the defensive accommodation and the cost of business lowers, and we bring in this sense of regulation for the client, we almost have to go, uh-oh, because as we move stuff off that top layer, other muck begins to float. It's coming to the surface. It's coming up and it's going, here I am, here I am. And so we want to be sure that we know that, oh yeah, you might feel worse before you feel better. We want to use that language. You know, things might feel a little rocky for a while. You might feel uncomfortable because what's going to take place is that you're going to feel better. So in feeling better, you have more space for the earlier trauma to come to the surface. So things you pushed back onto the back of the shelf or hid in the closet or did something with, all that stuff, all of it's getting pushed back, pushing back. And so by pushing that back, we know it's going to have to come forward. And the only place it's going to come forward is in a safe haven, with you as the secure base. That's where the trust comes in. Why we move with some sense of regularity. Why we're doing those things. Because in homeostasis, we know that there's 3 parts in the feedback loop of homeostasis. We know that there's a receptor part, and the receptor part monitors the change. Oh, look, it dropped from 100 degrees to 90 degrees outside. My skin needs to cool down. That's the receptor bringing in the information. And that information from the receptor goes to the control center. And the control center is where it's going, okay, set point, set point, set point. Let's cool that body down. Let's bring about some coolness. Let's do something here effectively to adjust to the temperature change outside. And the effector, the effector, we have the receptor, the control center, but the effector says, This was the set point. We're going to bring it back to set point. So you stop sweating, you stop perspiring, your skin's cooling down. You're cooling down to match the new 90-degree weather. So oftentimes when we're looking at it this way, we forget that, oh yeah, in healing, homeostasis, that internal, we're all built with that built in. It's a wonderful gift that we have in our systems to keep us balanced, to keep us, all those parts, the water, the temperature, the hormones, keeping everything balanced, constantly balanced. Here I am, balanced, balanced, balanced. It has a set point. That set point, the effector is going to take us back to the set point. We have to move set points. So there's nothing fast about healing developmental trauma. It takes time, and we have to consistently remember Bowlby's, the 4 awarenesses of Bowlby. We have to have that safe haven coming into place. Safe haven means that my office is safe. When you're in my office, nobody else is important to me. I'm not answering my phone. I'm not looking at my Google Watch to see what my Google Watch is telling me. I'm not doing anything except I'm right here with you, keeping you safe. And if there's sounds or something outside, I'm going to say, oh, that was just a fire truck going by. Or maybe that was just somebody in the hallway from another office or something. Identifying what's happening. What happens then is you're mirroring to the client what they're hearing, and you're beginning to build trust because they're thinking, did I just hear that? Did I hear that noise? Did I hear something different? And you're confirming, yeah, there was a sound. Or I noticed that while you're on the table, your foot begins to twitch, or your arm's flying up and down, or something's happening. And being able to say, it's all right, it's just your arm moving, or it's just your leg. That's part of the safe haven. Being able to acknowledge what's happening in the room. As the secure base, I want the client to know that I can hold things for them. I can hold this space of awareness. I can hold us open to a healing environment. Nothing you do or process while you're in my room is too big or too scary for me. The reason I say that is that oftentimes I get consult calls from highly skilled clinicians who will be in a state of alarm. Oh my, Steve, this happened. And I didn't know what to do. Well, you just told me that you weren't able to show up for your client. You just told me that your fear, your alarm system interrupted your client's healing. Way back when I first started working with Kathy Kane, way back, years and years ago, back before most of you were even born. Just, Jesus and all of us were playing together on the street, that far back. Kathy said to me, well, they walked in, they're going to walk out. And I thought, well, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But it took all of these years for that to make sense to me. That's right. Nothing that happens on that table, and I'm not doing harm by bringing on regulation. People say, oh, I must be harming them. I must be doing this as the clinician. If you're showing up in a non-judgmental, accepting way, and you're capable, whatever that body does, allowing it to do it without you knowing why it's doing it, you're a healer. That's the true meaning of healing. We don't have to know why. We know that when someone is threatened, they tighten up. So if you just tighten up right now, you can just feel your muscles get tight. Well, so does your fascia. That wonderful fascia tightens up. And if it's happening over and over and over, it's always tight. The new set point for the fascia is tight. So when you start to work with someone, bringing on regulation, bringing about healing, pieces and parts of the fascia begin to relax. And so the body will jerk, and we'll get these jerks coming through. And people say, oh, they're discharging. They're not discharging, they're transforming. They're really transforming. They've taken this energy that they've been holding forever and they're relaxing down. They're downloading it. It's going quieter in the system. But it doesn't happen in the whole system. Like the whole body doesn't miraculously go, huh, that was a lot of bracing that I've been doing for the last 60 years of my life. Wow, I did really great. It's all gone in one moment. Nope. Little bits, little bits. You know, you'll get that, those movements will come. And if we're not expecting movements and we're not expecting that kind of regulation, we're going to scream and holler. We're going to go, whoa, something's wrong, something's wrong. And then the client's going to say to you, what was that? What is it? What is it? And they're going to expect you to have your crystal ball out. And you're going to hold your crystal ball and say, oh, as the Holy One, that was this connecting to this because of this. Cause and reaction are no longer reality in developmental trauma. Cause and action mean nothing. We have so much action that has happened that we cannot always figure out the cause. Yeah, we might figure out that it's early, and we can tell it's early by how the client's responding to us, whether they're able to be present or whether they're able to be adult in their interaction. But we don't know which part may be showing up because we have so many parts that want to keep us safe all the time. They're always showing up to keep us safe. So if I'm looking at it from that angle, I'm going, oh, okay. So I want to survive. I'm having this movement. What happens if I just say to the client and I smile and say, everything's okay. It's just your fascia relaxing. We have this fascia all through our bodies, but we want to do this before they ever get on the table. Tell them, say, this might happen. And we also want to say, you might, a day or two afterwards or immediately after, you might feel bad for a little while. You might feel worse for a little while because we're changing a whole neurochemical, biological, anatomical, whatever words. We're changing a whole system is transforming here. So to imagine that, it's not like going for a massage. If I go and I pay $150 for a massage or $100 for a massage, whatever they cost these days, if I go for a massage and I pay for a massage, I darn well better get off that table feeling good. I want to feel better than when I got there. I want my body to go, oh, that felt wonderful. You touched all those points and oh my God, I feel so much better. I want that reaction. But when we're doing touch work and we're doing developmental trauma, we're not looking for our client to jump up and down and say, hallelujah, amen, at the end of the session. We're looking for them to understand that it's an integrative process, that we're taking a very tight, restricted system and bringing about a relaxed stage, but it's only coming in little parts. Some folks are going to say, oh, well, I got diarrhea afterwards, or I was so constipated. Those are two interesting words because those are not normally words we hear in therapy. But they're very indicative of developmental trauma because one of the systems that shuts down is the gut. Right off the bat, saying, oh, I need to get rid of this so I'm lighter and I can run faster, or I'm stronger and I can fight harder, or I'm going to freeze, or whatever is going to be coming about. For that to occur and that to happen, our gut goes down. So when we start to heal, our set point may be a gut, often diagnosed as irritable bowel syndrome or leaky gut. It may be a gut sitting here that's going, wait, this is normal. I'm supposed to eat on Monday and poop on Saturday. Every third Saturday of the month for some people. That's my normal. So here we are. We're looking at a set point with the gut. All of a sudden, you've changed and brought about some safety into that system, and the gut said, whoa, buddy, I've got to evacuate. This is different. I've had this in me since, the beginning of time. Now it's going to move out, or it's going to clamp down and say, oh no, I got to hold on to it. So we're going to get constipation or diarrhea. Those physiological responses tell you that you're working in trauma, and you're working in developmental trauma, and you're working in very young trauma. They're not even aware of those systems. We know that the interoception, their ability to monitor their own insides, is off when survival's in place. When we have early survival, interoception rarely works. Some people don't even know for sure. My clients will show up, and I get adults who say, I just go to the bathroom every 2 or 3 hours. I don't really know if I need to or not. I'm not getting those signals. I'm not getting that message. So we want to come in and comfort them and say, yeah, I understand. Your interoception's off. So, maybe we're going to do an enhancement, which means we're going to do the kidney adrenals, and we're going to do brainstem. If we're doing transforming touch, we're going to do ankles, and then we're coming in with an enhancement. And the enhancement may be, I'm going to place my hand on your leg, and I want you to find my hand and let me know when you feel it internally. It's amazing. Way back when I learned TheraPlay years ago, working with adopted children, I learned the TheraPlay, where you play with the parents and the child, and it's all regulated play. And we did a thing with cotton balls where we'd have a child close their eyes, and you take cotton balls and touch them, on their arms or on their legs. It was amazing the number of kids, based on how early their trauma was, were not able to feel it. That group of clients I've come to know as first trimester trauma. When we're working in first trimester trauma, when those people as adults or bigger kids, we can identify that there's truly first trimester trauma, then we know automatically that first trauma, that very first layer of trauma coming through, is going to be more constricted. It's going to have more physiological responses. It's going to have more psychological effect. It's going to have more isolation. It's going to have more of a lens of fear. I'm going to be showing up, but I have my glasses on and I'm looking through the lens, but that lens I'm looking through is the lens of fear. Everything is through a lens of fear. So nothing is as it appears. Now, what's wrong with that lens of fear is that lens of fear is the set point in the system. So if you ask somebody who comes in who's adult, and I say to them, I see Anita sitting up there, and I say, Anita, what are you noticing in your body? And she, I don't know, or this or that. It's telling me, what is she capable of? And then we get into this process. We come back around, we say, we need to teach everyone to track everything. We can't track. We can't track as the clinician, let alone every time we ask a client, I need you to track this. I need you to know and track it. It is different from saying, I need you to focus on this spot. When we're saying track it, they're having to observe a moving object. All of that is strong left brain, frontal cortex, intellect. It takes that ability to track. Alan Shore's research, and he is amazing in his interpretation, but understanding that healing occurs right brain to right brain. It never, ever happens left brain to left brain. Kate's way up in cold country sitting up there right now. And I could say, oh, okay, let me talk you into it being warm outside. And she probably, I can't talk her into believing if it's 20 degrees outside that it's 90 degrees. That's not healing. That's the same as using left brain to left brain, trying to heal. But if I come in and I say, oh, it's really cold outside, and we're able to join in right brain to right brain, and both of us experience that, and me to be receptive and open to Kate and say, Kate, you can find me when you're ready. I'm not going to chase you. I'm not going to create a flight response in your system by having you do a whole lot of work. I want you to know that I am here when you're ready to find me. So if I come in and I say, Kate, stop that. No dissociating today. Get back here. Or Kate goes to sleep and I say, wake up, Kate, you're missing therapy. You're just wasting my time. Why do I even show up? You're going to sleep all the time anyway. So wrong. Big W-R-O-N-G, wrong. Because that is a normal, healthy part of being an infant. Infants go to sleep, and caretakers protect them while they're sleeping. And then the proximity maintenance, when she wakes up, I say, oh, I'm right here, Kate. You slept so beautifully. You were really resting and really acknowledging how important that was and not finding that shame and saying, Kate, every time you come in here, you go to sleep. And you may think that I'm being silly, but that I get those consults all the time. People want people to heal immediately. People want people to stay present. People want people to connect immediately. All of these things do not happen, nor should they. The only reason they happen as adults, when we go into like a room full of therapists, which can sometimes be really scary, but you go in and you're able to say, oh, I'm Steve Terrell. How are you? I'm from Austin, Texas. Or, to be able to say that, we put on our mask. We start saying, oh, I'm Steve Terrell, psychologist. I'm Steve Terrell, body worker. I'm Steve Terrell, neurofeedbacklist. That title comes with me. So I start meeting you through the title. Well, we're not building intimate relationships. We're not coming in and building that intimacy that it takes for healing. Those are all social times, and we know that we're not fully showing up. So when we're working with our client in that safe haven, we want to be sure we describe to them before they ever get on the table, what's a window of tolerance? What's the sympathetic arousal? What's the parasympathetic arousal? What are your complaints? What are your defensive accommodations? What do you do when you get upset about something? I smoke a pack of cigarettes. I drink a 6-pack. I smoke a joint. Whatever they do, that's the defensive accommodation. We are trained as psychotherapists, body workers, healers. We're all trained to go after the defensive accommodation. We chase after, oh, look, you have an eating disorder. Let's treat that eating disorder by, we're going to now limit your food, or we're going to change your food, or we're going to put you in a treatment center. And we're focusing on this eating disorder. But nothing changes. So people do, that loop of, oh, I got out of treatment, now I'm back in treatment, I got out of treatment, I'm back in treatment, I'm out and in, out and in. Instead of coming in and building and realizing, okay, that eating disorder kept you alive. I'm grateful you have an eating disorder. What we're going to do is, in this normal, you have an eating disorder, and we're going to work on regulation. We're going to make you feel safe. And through these actions, we're going to bring about a different response. We're going to bring about a different response where maybe your parasympathetic has enough space to heal that we don't have to use the strong defensive accommodations. So we're coming in about regulation. We're starting at the bottom and we're building up. We're building these things up. In the healing hierarchy, we know that in that triangle, I don't know moves to the illogical, because we'll start making illogical reasons. I am the way I am because some weird reason. So it's illogical. Then it moves into the concrete. Concrete is great, but yes, I hear what you're saying, Steve, but my clients are different. But my experiences are different. But you don't really know what it's like to be me. I don't have to know what it's like to be you. I don't have to know any of that. I have to meet you with empathy. I have to show up giving you empathy. And the more empathy and compassion I could show is great. But if I don't have any authority, you're still not going to get there. So I want to have the authority that when you're in my office, I have the authority to keep you safe. That the movement that we're making, even though we want your agreement where we're touching and how we're doing it, I have the authority to do it. I have the authority. I am the one who's keeping us safe. And we need that authority. We get from adults. I say, well, my mom was never around, or my dad was at work, my mom was at work, I was with a list of babysitters, and I never got, two people who gave the same boundaries. But authority is that I can create boundaries that's going to keep you safe while you're here in my office. And I understand that as we go forward, there's going to be times you're going to feel worse. And as difficult it is, sometimes we take 2 steps forward and 1 step backwards. That's just how therapy works. Your body can't go 2 steps forward and hold it. It has to step back. It's like you have 3 cars sitting in your driveway, and all 3 cars, are sitting there, but all 3 cars need to go into the shop on the same morning at the same time. So you drive 1 car to the corner, you park it, you get out, and you walk back, and you get the next car, and you drive it to the corner, and you park. That's how healing occurs. You're going back and forth, back and forth. That set point changes with each trip. So as you bring about this sense of safety through regulation, your client's really able to experience it. But if they've never been safe, guess what's really, really scary? Safety. If I grew up with really angry, scary parents or parent, and all of a sudden you keep showing up nice, you're going to become scary because you're out of the normal. So we show up, we hear it in the adoption world a lot. If I love you enough, you're going to get better. I can love you into betterness. I can love you, and if you can feel my love, then your life is going to change. That's what I say to that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because their set point is not set to love. So when you're coming in with this loving interaction, they're going, whoa, get away from me. I don't like you. I'm going to tear the walls down on the house. I'm going to, poop in the corners. I'm going to have all of these reactions to keep you away. Push back, push back, push back. Instead of just being able to show up and sit with it. Stay in presence. We talk about therapeutic centering and transforming classes. And in therapeutic centering, I'm going to sit next to you, and I have my hand underneath your kidney, supporting your system. I'm not holding your kidney, which has a negative connotation. For a lot of us, being held meant we were going to be assaulted. So I'm not holding anybody's kidneys. I'm supporting your kidney right here. And then I'm just going to be present. Maybe I'm going to use a timer to tell me when to move. I'm not going to sit there and try to figure out, oh, there it goes. There's the kidney opening up. That's what I did for years, and I did it wrong. Today I know I don't need to do all of that. I'm going to show up with the amount of time I'm going to be there supporting the kidney. It allows me the freedom to say, I'll use Kate because I see her in the top of my screen. So I could say, Kate, in my mind while I'm holding your kidney, and I start thinking, for dinner tonight, John Michael wants chicken legs or, wings or something. I need to stop on my way home at the grocery and pick up some of this or that. And I start thinking that way while I'm sitting there holding the kidney or supporting the kidney. See, even I get caught in that word hold. But I'm sitting here supporting that kidney and I'm thinking about grocery shopping, which is normal for my brain to ramble on. I'm not present. So the way in therapeutic presence with our clients is to say, Kate, as soon as I realize I've left Kate, I'm going to come back to that. Kate. In my mind, I'm not saying it out loud. I'm just saying Kate. And then I remember why I'm there. I remember, oh yeah, I just need to be present. So presence means available. Available means when Kate reaches a certain point of regulation, Kate's going to need someone. I need to be available for Kate. Kate's early experience was with an unavailable parent. Maybe because of surgery, maybe because of adoption, maybe because she just had an unavailable parent. Maybe her mother had postpartum blues. Postpartum depression is so real. And we forget that, what is it? 1 out of every 5 of us, our mothers may have had postpartum depression. I mean, the numbers are much higher than we give credit to. So there's an unavailable person there. That's Kate's experience. So what do I want? I need to be available to Kate when Kate comes out of this and she starts the healing process. As her regulation hits that point where it's able to say, oh, I need him. I need her. Where are they? And I'm going to do more harm than good if I'm not present. If I'm over there tracking her leg as it moves and watching her body, tracking her the whole time, I'm not available. There's no difference in me being away tracking than it could be for her mother, and this isn't true for Kate, but it could be no difference that Kate's mother was drinking while Kate was laying in bed, or Kate was being separated, or Kate was not, I'm repeating it. And we all fall into that really quickly. And so the important thing is we want to be present. We want to understand homeostasis. We understand set point. We understand that we have receptors in homeostasis that are monitoring what's occurring, and they send messages to the control center. And as soon as the control center message comes in that you've left the normal range, then the effector goes into place, and the effector goes out and says, oh, it's 100 degrees. You need to be sweating to cool your body down to 98.6. So let's make you sweat. That's the effector coming in. The effector is the body's fix-it man or woman or the person. It's the fixer. The effector is the fixer. So the effector says, no matter what you've done wonderfully and good, going to a 0.4 when the range is 3, and you move all the way to a positive 4, it sounds like you've had the best session ever, or you feel like you have. That effector says, no, you come back to 0, and you get back here right now. And the effector goes, let's create the body system where the system returns, and it goes, okay, I'm back. Here I am at 0, but it might accidentally land at 0.2 or 0.1 instead of 0. And it might start to move. But understand that if it's a 0, 3 plus or minus, that -4 and +4 both have the same negative reaction to the system. The system sees them both as something outside set point. And it's going to go out there and bring them back the best it can. The best way I know to do that is by staying present with my client, moving with the time where I'm not tracking everything, trusting that whatever happens, happens for a purpose, and that purpose may be a purpose that I am never going to be privileged to. Never, never going to be privileged to. That they're probably not going to have it either. And understanding that we get better and we get worse. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So it takes time in therapy. We don't want to be alarmed. We don't want to be ringing the bell going, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Oh my God, what am I going to do? This is really bad. What am I going to do? We don't want to go into those states. We want to stay in that state of being able to say, you know, that system is doing something different than it did before. And I have to trust that whatever it's doing different is going to bring it back in to a new set point. But I have to be patient. If I interfere with it, I can mess up the whole shenanigans of it all. And some systems, you know, we talk about patterns and they'll get locked into patterns. Even those patterns will break when we show up and we're present. In SRR, we talk a lot about patterns. But those patterns, you know, will release on their own. They'll begin to transform on their own because those patterns are defensive accommodations. So if we just keep showing up in the same way, if your appointment is at 2 o'clock on Tuesday, it's 2 o'clock every Tuesday. We do the best we can not to shuffle people around. We take away the unexpected. You know, some people lock in and they say, oh, I want to use this online scheduling, and they can pick anytime they want. You don't have any authority. You want to have authority as the therapist to create the safe haven. You let the client know, I have a 2 o'clock on Tuesday and it's an ongoing appointment, and this is where you're going to be. And they'll find a way to be there. They'll find a way to show up. And in that authority, they're going to be safer. Because if you say, oh, I understand you can't be here before 5 o'clock and my day ends at 5 o'clock, so I'll stay over at 6 just because you really need me to show up. We're human. And as therapists, we start resenting being there at 6 o'clock. We start pulling back and saying, oh, today I have to stay till 7 o'clock. I have this whole thing. And it wasn't part of our plan. So we are not taking care of us. So we definitely want to take care of us as the therapist. So, talked a lot about homeostasis. We've talked about set points. We've talked about receptors, control points, effectors, and understanding that the system goes back. We've talked about therapeutic presence, how to stay in that therapeutic presence, you know, just calling out their name and supporting their system as we're moving through. Now I want to open up, and if you hit the chat button's probably the easiest way, because otherwise I won't see you, I don't think. But if someone give me a message that you have a specific case you want to report on, I'll come in and report back on that case, and I give you a consult back. Everybody's probably got a case, and everybody probably has a question. So it's going to be kind of like me just kind of figuring out whoever pops up is where I'm going to answer. So you might type it into the chat on the right part of your screen. You can type it in there or hit chat at the bottom, whichever is easier for you. And I'll answer the questions. So the floor is now open. Just signal if you have a question or a case you want to report to me. And nobody's responding. Even Christina. I just saw Christina pop in and pop out in 2 seconds. all the way from Georgetown. See, I could pick on her as another Texan. There we go. We're just moving through. There's a question. Have you worked with mediators who experience mysterious pain from intensive mediation? Yes, I have. The reason that we pick up those pains are usually that we're coming in and it's about our own sensitivity. We're not taking good enough care of ourselves, so to speak. One of the things that I like to do is to come in and say, okay, hey Blake, I see you on the top.
Hey Steve, I just wanted to clarify my question. Sorry, it was meditators.
Oh, those people, not mediators.
Yes.
Well, okay, meditators. One of the scary part about meditators, there's a protocol out now too called Safe and Sound Protocol that Stephen Porges did. It's a great protocol. Meditation is a great tool to use. Remembering though that you need to know your client's history. If your client has developmental trauma, there's a chance that they can't tolerate Safe and Sound Protocol and they can't tolerate meditating. And the reason is that we're reenacting being alone. They're having to create in their mind a sense of somebody's there to help me, or whatever. And all of a sudden, we're doing a reenactment. So we're actually doing an opposite effect of what meditation is supposed to do. Meditation works really well after you've changed the set point on a client with developmental trauma, after they're getting closer to self-regulation, which self-regulation doesn't kick in until after concrete, when we get the even though, where they say, even though this is happening, I can do this. So that meditator, if they don't have that ability to go into their brain and use their cognitive ability to say, you're safe right now. I realize you're sitting alone and you're quiet, but you're safe, even though you might be getting some negative thoughts. Thomas Keating, father of contemplative prayer, wrote a great book on the dark nights. Understanding that when we're doing meditation and we have early trauma, there's a chance it's all going to roll through your screen while you're sitting there. I really want that client to be supported. Just like with Safe and Sound, if I do Safe and Sound, I want to be present with the client sitting right in front of them while they're doing it, so they know I'm right here with you. You're not by yourself this time. I can protect you. So does that help, Blake?
Yeah, I just in particular they'll report some weird experiences and some weird somatic pains from doing 6 months of intensive Tibetan practice.
Not unusual.
Yeah, okay.
Not unusual. I get that a lot. And what's happening is they're not getting the support of a secure base support, of the secure base helping them to figure out the change or to figure out what's happening. They're not getting that kind of support, so they actually are getting more activated than deactivated. But because they've changed the set point with their mediation, they may have moved it backwards instead of forwards. It's going to take a while, and you really just want to be there and say, it's okay that when you're getting these weird thoughts and these weird images or these weird somatic feelings, they may be yours, but they also could be your grandmother's. So they might be your grandfather's. They could be your great-grandparents. They could be inherited parts. We don't know, because in that meditative state, you have no authority as the therapist. So you're just like Googling it. Some of us believe what we Google, and some of us every once in a while goes, that doesn't make sense. That if I pour olive oil in my left ear, it'll come out my right ear. And then we start questioning. But if we have a secure base that we're working with, we're going to be much more capable of processing the trauma. Much more capable of saying, I did a meditative state, and I saw blue dragons running through my yard, chasing my children or chasing my dog or chasing me. And we go, well, that's the illogical part of healing. They're getting imagery and symbologies coming through, but trying to figure that on your own just scares the poop out of you. You know, I personally did meditation. I did contemplative prayer way before I had any treatment, and all of a sudden I was like, whoa, what's this? What's this coming through? So I understand, you know, it seems so simple, and why can it have such effect? It's because our systems aren't capable of figuring it out by ourselves if we have developmental trauma.
Mm-hmm.
We need to reorient and build those platforms, and then it becomes much more effective.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Thank you, Blake. I appreciate you. All right. I'm going to move over here, and it says, can you comment? Wait, work with clients with acute awareness of their physiology, but they feel like their body is not theirs, or refer to their body as him or them or her. Also has a sense of one side of their gut being stuck like concrete. Oh my goodness, yes. Yes, yes, yes. That's because somewhere they got a message early on, maybe in first trimester, probably. That's probably a first trimester rupture, that they weren't good enough, or that they weren't acceptable, or they weren't wanted or needed. And when that message is in the system, that abandonment message, they become their own therapist to survive. So their survival technique is that they have a part within them that's watching and referring to them, because it's like a disconnect. It's like somebody cut off their arm, and now the arm's working by itself, but it's not attached to the body. That's just really showing a complete disconnection of self coming in. And when we hear that disconnection, we want to be sure that we're able to say, okay, I hear your disconnect. I hear them. What would happen if them was you? What would happen if he or she were you? You know, where are you? Because sometimes these early parts that are inherited, like you think, I don't have any reason for this at all. There is no reason at all for me to behave this way. Those inherited parts, we don't have a connection to them. We're like, they don't even make sense. You know, why do I do that? Why don't I show up? Why am I acting this way? That disconnect is very real with developmental trauma. Very real, especially developmental trauma when you have a lot of inherited trauma and unresolved trauma in parents or grandparents coming through, or great-grandparents coming through, or community-wide. So you really want to bring them back. If they're not able to do that just through, you know, let that part know that that part's welcome here. If there's other parts right now that are present and they're doing different things, what would it be like for you to connect? If they're not able to do that, then you start doing some integration work where you say, I want you to feel my hand like on your right knee. Let me know when you feel it. I have my left hand on your shoulder. And do some pendulation and titration where they're able to bring that disconnect back in and start saying, oh, and you can even label and say, your left shoulder is that part of you that's watching, and your right knee is the part of you that's doing. So we've got a doer and a watcher, and just pendulate back and forth and allow some time for titration, but do it on a measured movement, like say 15 seconds here, 15 seconds there, and being able to go back and forth is going to bring that disconnected part more into play. Somebody asked early on, will there be a replay of this? You're going to get in your email box, you'll get a copy of it. Either you'll get a direct link back to the copy, or you'll get a link taking you to the website. I don't know where Heather's going to put it. Heather lives in a world by herself, and I just do what she tells me to do. She's an excellent assistant, so she will make it available. Somebody said one client reported very dark urine after a short kidney support. Amen. Yes. Very dark urine means This is old trauma coming through. Old trauma, nothing to be afraid of. This is normal. Let's watch it. If it doesn't go away within a few days, like 5 days to 7 days, then we're going to send you to your doc and get it checked. More than likely, this is just dark urine is from it sitting without activation. So what happens is that if somebody's been in a high state of survival from the beginning of time, from the beginning of conception, they probably never emptied their bladder fully because of the fear that if they're gone too long or they just aren't aware of how to empty that bladder fully, that old urine is still in there, and that's the dark urine. So you come in and you support it, and the kidney's kind of like jumping your car off when your car battery is dead and it goes, that's what your kidney's doing. And when it goes, it's shaking. And that shaking will bring the residue down off the walls of the kidney, and it starts to come down until you pass it. Not unusual at all. I usually tell clients automatically at the end of session, be sure and drink lots of water. Water are extremely important. We want to get all the water on board we can because we want you to be able to have the experience of moving out any of that negative urine. You know, if you've ever done a colonic or you've had a client who's done a colonic where they go in and they run water up your rectum and, fill the colon and they go in, they'll get stuff out of it that's been in there. They'll get an old pea or a bean that's been there since you were a little baby. I mean, things will lock into those parts because of the fear. We just don't have the motility that we need. So we're going to start moving towards greater motility. And the way we do it is with water. It's really safe. Just drink water. Not 12 gallons a day. A good measure for water is half your body weight. So if somebody weighs 100 pounds, 50 ounces is plenty. No more than 50 ounces. You don't want to go over half the body weight in what they're taking in. Some people would recommend cranberry juice. It has a good effect on kidneys. We know that. That's proven. We also know that when you're doing this healing, if I only have so much energy and I'm trying to stay safe, and I have 100 points of energy a day to keep me safe, and I'm using 75 points to keep me safe, I only have 25 points for development. Things aren't going to develop the way we would hope. So we're looking at those parts. One of the places that also needs consideration, depending on your licensure and where you are, and if you're like me, your license says you really can't do a whole lot about anything supplement-wise. So I don't recommend a supplement. I'll either refer them to a naturopath or someone who can do that. But I oftentimes will tell clients, you need fat in your brain. When we're developing, fat is so important. Whole milk, breast milk, lots of fat in that brain is how that brain is able to develop. When we start rebuilding early platforms, your brain goes back into a younger state. Take a couple tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil every morning. I did it, it helped me, this is what helped me. Put it into that term. I'll say, I did some of this, or I ate an avocado every morning. Something that's going to bring fat. You don't want them not having enough fat when you're working, because that brain regresses to that younger brain. So you have this 50-year-old woman in front of you, and she looks like a 50-year-old woman, and you have her on the table, and you're getting this work going. She might regress back to a one-day-old baby, and that's where the healing needs to occur. So you want to be sure there's plenty of fat. Olive oil, extra virgin, 2 tablespoons a day is plenty. It takes god-awful, but it's plenty for that brain to begin to restore. It's great with memories and lost memories. It'll start giving more into the brain where the client's narrative becomes more important than my narrative. I can say, oh, well, this all looks developmental. But the client's narrative is the important one. They can come in and say, oh, well, this happened because of this, and they create a story that makes sense. And we want that narrative to change. So we want to be sure we have plenty of fat in that brain tissue. We want plenty of it up there. Easiest way, couple tablespoons of god-awful extra virgin olive oil. Only buy it if you look at the ingredients and it says extra virgin olive oil as the only ingredient. If it has more than one ingredient there, it's been mixed with something else. So you really want to get the high quality. And if it's cheap, it's not real. Extra virgin olive oil is not cheap. It costs. So you really want to be sure it just says extra virgin if your client's using it. Okay. There's that one. Please, bereavement by suicide. I assume, I'm assuming that you're saying the grief of the survivor. Not that the survivor survived the grief by suicide. So when I'm looking at that, you know, grief and bereavement, a lot of that has to do with, are they already working on a compromised system? Are they already working in developmental trauma? Is that where they already are coming from? Ophelia, if you could turn your volume on, you'll pop in. And so I could ask you a couple of questions. If you could do that, I don't know where you are in the bunch. Yeah, I hope
Hello.
there you are. Hello.
Hi.
It's good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you too.
So tell me what do you mean by that question about bereavement by suicide? The survivor?
Yeah, the survivor. I work a lot with parents of adults and youth who die by suicide.
Yes.
And I am, yeah, so go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I overrode you. Go ahead.
I'm trying to bring this trauma-informed, sensitive care into that field, but it's pretty difficult. So any pointers would be useful.
First of all, you're exactly right. It's very difficult. It's very difficult because all they see is the suicide. You know, that's what's right in front of their face is the suicide of that child or loved one. So I would try bringing it in by the idea of regulation. One of the things that I know is going to help is if we bring on some regulation. And unfortunately, you may not have a complete history of the survivor. You may get more of an interrupted history of the suicide, of the child, but you may not have enough history on the parents or the survivor, the person who's grieving. So I really would come from the basis of regulation, understanding, you know, like, what do you do before this happened and something came up in your life? How did you handle it? What tools were you using before this happened? That we can lean on those tools of regulation. How do you find peace? Do you go for a walk? What do you do? Do you sit quietly? Are you isolating? You know, what are you doing? What would happen today? You know, and if I'm just sitting here with you, you know, or I might be doing it through Zoom, I might be saying to you, Ophelia, I might be saying, just put your hand behind your back, right where your kidney is, and you're going to feel that spot. And just notice that my hand is there too right now. And in a moment, you're going to feel warmth. That warmth is my connection with you. I am so sorry this happened. I know that if we can bring about regulation, because you're driving along the road and everything's going well, and then with suicide, out of nowhere, kaboom, there's been an accident. You weren't ready for that accident. So I'm going to come back in and build regulation, build regulation, build regulation, do regulation. I would have, if it's a mom and the dad and the child, suicide, I would have them walk in unison. I'd say, I want you every day, while thinking about your child, you two walk arm in arm, just like, you know, how soldiers do it, right foot, left foot, left foot, right foot, right foot, bringing in some rhythm, and then bring in some music. What was your child's music? What did they like? What kind of music do you like? Let's listen to the music, hear the beats of the drum, hear, you know, the sounds that are happening in the music, and move. But movement through an umbrella of compassion, an umbrella understanding that, you know, if your child if your child suicides, you're going to be guilty. Why didn't I see this? Why didn't I know this? And being able to, you know, you can say all you want. Well, it's because this was their choice at that moment, and there's nothing you could do. You know, we can say that over and over to the cognitive, but in a parent's heart, that's not hitting. So just, you know, when they say, why didn't I see it? Yeah. I wonder, why didn't you see it? And really letting that part not run into a roadblock of me not being able to hold space for you to realize, and do you work through. Parents immediately are responsible, and they have to move over to, this happened, it's a horrible thing, and see it from a self-regulation point of view. Right now, there's systems like, you know, somebody's caught the fish and it's flopping and they don't know what to do. So you're holding authority in the room. And my authority says we need to do some regulation exercises. We need to bring about some softening. You're up to the top right now. And the way I do it is I take a glass of water, just like this one, and a pitcher. This is not a pitcher, but we'll pretend it's a pitcher of water. And I pour that water into the glass and I say, the stress of the suicide, the stress of the funeral, the stress of family, the stress of dealing with others, until this glass floods. And I say, that's where you are right now. You're flooding in emotion. You're drowning in emotions. You're horribly sad. I'm here with a paper towel. I'm the bounty woman. I have a bounty paper towel, and I'm going to soak it up to where you don't have to have all of this, that you don't have to worry about it. I can clean up the mess. And the way I'm going to do that is by regulation and being present with you and really showing you empathy, but doing it from a place of authority where I can direct you. If we could get you doing some rhythms, just like we would do with a newborn, you know, a new kid, well, you know, where we're playing games and we're building this regulation. We really want to go back into those early states to where the mom and dad can reconnect. Because even if they're like this when they come in, they're really like this. Because this one, somewhere in his brain, he's blaming her, and somewhere in her brain, she's blaming him for something that they think they did wrong 20 years ago. So
Thank you. That's very helpful. Very helpful.
Yeah, so we're just going to change the dynamics.
Okay.
Glad you were here. Thank you. It's good to see you. All right, I'm moving down the questions. Okay, there's one here. It says right and left split. After several SE sessions, the client in his first touch experience, left side calm, right side activated. Please comment on this split. Deborah, where are you? Pop in if you can. Deborah, are you still on? You wrote this about 1:58. Deborah, you asked the question. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start answering it, imagining you're somewhere. All right, right and left split is non-common. Right left split, when we start doing touch and we get them into that touch experience, is that we discover that if they had 75 keeping them safe and they only had 25 to work with and grow and develop with, they may have got their split off. So they may have put 20 on the left side and 5 on the right side, so to speak. So when somebody shows up and they have a line right down the middle of their meridian saying left side doesn't have the same feeling as right side, there is an invitation for you to step up and go, all right, I'm going to put one hand on your left side and one hand on your right side, and we're going to pendulate and titrate. And we're going to start bringing the left and the right in. Sometimes with people with developmental trauma, that's easier to do from the brain. So when you're up at the brainstem and you have the head in your hands, this is not a head by any means, but when you have the head in the hand and you're holding it, you know, and you have it there, you just want to say, okay, focus on the left hand or my left hand, giving them just a little bit of pressure. And you want to hold that for a little bit of time. Then you're going to say, now feel my right hand. Starting up at the brain, realizing that if I'm weak on the right side, it's the left side of my brain that's damaged, which means the left side of my brain is cognitive. So they have cognitive struggles going on. We pretty well can figure that part out. So you want to put it in little bitty microbites, little bitty microbites. Just feel my right hand touching the back of your head. Now feel my left. And I'm holding your head gently. Sometimes with developmental trauma, I can't be behind you and do your head work. I might have to be next to you and have your head laying in my hand to where you can still see me, and I'll just use my fingers and my palm to give you a left-right sensation. But I just want you to notice that feeling. Just notice what's happening. There you are. Can you feel the left? Can you feel the right? And you begin to repair the brain. Somewhere in the brain, it just got the message to survive. One side needed more than the other. Not a huge thing, and it should come back on within 6 or 7 sessions. It's going to take some work, but you want to do balance first. Do left kidney, right kidney, brainstem, ankles. Bring in some balance first, and then come in and do that as a later move, an enhancement, so to speak. But you want to bring in regulation first before you jump right into it. But that'll shift, and that is not unusual at all. Please comment on the possibility to support clients after outpatient ECT sessions. Is that electroconvulsive therapy? I imagine. Presence is the only thing I know. That would be presence, presence, presence. So you just want to stay present with someone after ECT. That's a tough one because knowing in the ECT, they're losing their present awareness. ECT's whole purpose is to wipe out this moment. So the way to do that is they lose. When they wake up from ECT, it's like, where am I? Who are you? And that's why somebody needs to be sitting there with them saying, I'm right here with you. You've just experienced a bit of an erasure, just like the chalkboard. Something's been erased. And definitely have as much regulation on board before they go into the session as possible. Develop a relationship with them before the ECT that can be rejoined afterwards. Otherwise, it can be pretty frightening. It can also be extremely effective for some people. Hi, Deborah, I've experienced this phenomenon myself. No narrative to go with it. Yeah. When you start having those feelings without narratives, that just means that that was in the unspoken time. That means that nobody was able to get it. Nobody was able to say, let me share with you what happened. So part of being the secure base is we're going to create a new narrative for you. Whatever that narrative needs to be to make sense of what you're experiencing. Let's come in and create a new one. No shame in that at all. Can be extremely important. Someone asked me, I wonder if it's the right time to start integrating primitive reflexes with a client I believe has been in co-regulation for a while. If they're in co-regulation, I wonder if they're really there, first of all, because if they're in co-regulation, you definitely can do primitive reflexes without a doubt. The primitive reflexes can start earlier on. Primitive reflexes are survival-based relational. So as you build a relationship with that client through doing the touch, and by just go ahead and bring in, whether you believe it's fear paralysis or moral, whichever reflex you're coming in to work with, go ahead and bring it on board. Realizing just do it in microbites. So you're going to do it during the enhancement period, or that after you have regulation. In transforming, we call that an enhancement period, where you come in and do something special. The something special you're going to be doing at that point is the primitive reflex. Don't move around on your primitive reflexes. If you start off with fear paralysis, stay with fear paralysis until you feel like there's been some resolution. And that can take 6 or 8 weeks or 6 or 8 months for some people. So you really want to get that going. Primitive reflexes, on average, across the board, normally you can start working with them in enhancement. This question's from someone who does transforming the experience-based brain. So that enhancement normally can be added on after about 6 to 8 weeks. So after 8 sessions, so to speak, go ahead and start doing it. Just automatically add it in. If they can't tolerate it, then it's just like teaching boundaries to children. Today, I might let you walk to the corner, and you might not be able to walk to the corner without me, so maybe I'm going to walk halfway. Boundaries are flexible when we're working with babies in early developmental ruptures. So just jump back and go, okay, if they have a reaction that tends to be outside the window of normal for you, then you might say, as a therapist, you might say, I'm going to wait a bit. I'm going to wait a bit. I'm going to add this in microbites. Good question. Somebody wrote, I noticed that during limbic installation, if you don't know transforming experience-based brain, limbic installation is the final step, or right there next to the final. It says some people don't have the ability to squeeze big toes and push in pinky toes. I'm curious if this is connecting to anything. Well, for folks, when they're doing that, Beth, sometimes what's happening when they're moving, so in limbic installation, if these were our feet, where we rest for a count of 15, we put our hand in the middle, and we say, move your toes until you find me. So now we've brought in attachment theory. In attachment theory, they're moving in. If they can't get to you, either they're having a physiological problem, or attachment-wise, they're not ready to connect to you. They've been isolated and alone. So you just wait, and you give them encouraging words. Just move a little further, a little further. If they're, because of physical reasons, can only move this far and they can never get all the way over, then just wherever they can get to is good, and use both your hands instead of one hand for them to connect to it. When they go to the outside, remember that their foot is the distance between the 2 feet, and half of that is how far you go on the outside. So if this is their feet, I'm going to go this far out, and when they hit my hands, I want them really to push to where their hips pop up. The reason we're doing that is that early on in limbic installation, or early on in development, all the way back to primitive reflexes of the fear paralysis, the baby pulls back, and when they pull back, they bend in and protect by their coccyx. Their lower part of their spinal cord locks in and swings in to protect the spinal cord. So when you're doing that limbic installation, you want those hips to come up, which is opening up the spinal cord all the way through. You're moving the coccyx. You're moving the sacrum. Everything's moving so that they're getting the full benefit. So you're taking the work you did that day, and the limbic part of the brain is from the movements. The limbic becomes involved because the limbic is where emotion is, and we need this to be an emotional memory. We need it to stay with the work we've done. Oftentimes, they're not going there because, like, shame misses emotions. Grief misses emotions. it'll jump right by. It'll go right from your prefrontal cortex right into your reptilian brain and miss that limbic part. We want the limbic to be involved. So just take your time, stay with the 15 count. 15 rest, 15 in, 15 rest, 15 out, 15 rest, 15 in, 15 rest, 15 out. So you're resting. Don't miss your rest points in the limbic installation. It gives the brain a little bit more time. Definitely could have a complete response to attachment. Could be happening in there.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it.
Oh, there you are, Beth. Nice
Sorry,
to
I
see
didn't have
you.
it unmuted. I had a video of it.
Ah, you popped right in when you unmuted yourself.
Yeah.
Does that help? Do you get the idea of what I'm talking about?
Yeah, in the 15 seconds, I haven't been doing that rest, so that's good. I'll bring that in. And she is able to like get there physically, but it's like it's like there's no actual feeling of her pushing in. And it's starting to come on board a little bit, but
Yeah.
when I first initially felt it, it was like I was asking her to push, and it was like there was no impulse, nothing coming out to meet me. I don't know if that makes sense.
Did you feel lonely?
No, I didn't know.
You sure?
Because I mean, no. Well, what's so funny though is this client, she always has to be looking at me.
Right. But
Always
she's
needs
looking
to have
at you
that
for
feel, but
hypervigilance. That's to
very
be safe.
yeah.
So think about if you're completely in presence and
Mhm.
you're not worried about anything, and I'm giving you an opportunity. I'm saying, Beth, touch me, come towards me. I'm right here, Beth. See if you
Yeah.
can find me. And you don't find me, I'm
Mm.
going to be lonely.
Oh,
I'm going to miss that connection
yeah.
because we're still human.
So I guess I am missing. I guess that's probably what I'm picking up on is that
Right.
there is this missing kind of connection going on.
It's there, and it sounds like you're going outside trying to figure out an external reason for this internal behavior. And I would say to her out loud, I said, I'm missing you. I
Hmm.
can feel your toes touching me, but I don't really feel you.
Okay, that's good.
And you can say those, or I'm right in the middle. I want you to find me with your toes, not my hand. I want you to find me. And
There we go.
really get her relational in the
Okay.
in the limbic installation. And people who have only had SRR are going, what the heck is a limbic installation? It's a part of the protocol and transforming. So I
Yeah,
hope that helps.
it does help a lot. Thank you, Steve.
Always good to see you, Beth. You know, I
Yes, good
appreciate
to
you.
see you. Take care.
You too. Now I'm going to move on down to Steve. Can we do the mediastinum enhancement before the other Yes. You can do mediastinum as soon as you get some regulation on board. You want some regulation on board because it's going to work better, but you can begin to bring in the mediastinum. You can bring it in and do some mediastinum. Some people will do one session in mediastinum, like every 5th session is going to be mediastinum, because we know that the lungs are all affected by fear paralysis, by the fear reaction to fear and how we respond. So we know breath is very important. So coming underneath, doing the mediastinum, yeah, no problem. Go ahead and throw it in. You're setting your protocol. You could do a protocol of 6 weeks, and then 6 weeks of fear paralysis, 6 weeks of Moro, 6 weeks of spinal colon, 6 weeks of rooting. However you set your protocol up, or you could do, I like to do every 5th or 6th to do a mediastinum or do layers. I really, really love working in layers. So there's other options coming through. But yeah, if you feel like you need mediastinum to give you more space, jump in there and do it. Hey, Steve, have a cue for consult about newer kiddo. 11 years old, at 6 months separated from mom. I assume me as mom, due to her medical income incident. I don't think, Janice, where are you? Janice, I'm not getting the whole, hello. Did you change up the words there? Or am I reading it wrong? At 6 months separated from due to medical income? I don't hear you, Janice. Is your volume on? There you are. No, you're
Okay.
now ask me the question. Tell me, you have an 11-year-old separated at 6 months due to.
The mom had an acute appendicitis rupture.
Oh, well, that's nothing to do with medical income incident.
No, it was fat finger.
I have that same situation. So mom had acute appendicitis. How long did it rupture?
Yes, it ruptured, and she couldn't feed him or function very well for about a month, 2 months, 3 months. He had to get transferred pretty quickly to bottle, and he's had issues on and off, lots of constipation, encoparesis, too much poop, leaking out. All that began around age 3. Lots of toileting issues, lots of nocturnal bedwetting.
Of course, he's not, because he's looking for an external soother. There's no internal soother, so his interoception has been thrown off. Bless his heart. Do you know what his prenatal experience was?
I don't know that yet. In general, mom talked about really wanting to get pregnant. They wanted to have the baby. So generally good.
Okay. Any postpartum depression or anything right after birth or anything happened in birth of significance?
Nope, not according to mom.
Then you have an easier repair here, because you should have, based on story, you should have about 6 months of somebody's sharing a screen with us.
I know, I lost you. Where are you, Mr.?
I'm still here. I'm not quite sure how that occurred, but I just got a whole screen and I can't do anything about it. So.
Because Elizabeth King is sharing her screen, or I'm viewing for some reason Elizabeth King's screen. I'm going to click on your screen and
see if it changes, because I'm kind of just here right this moment. I'm not even seeing movement. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Then I'm going to keep talking.
Okay.
You have 6 months. Let's imagine that she had 6 months to stop call good parenting, good interaction with child. So really we need to get her for her to go back in her mind to before the appendicitis. What were things like? And really have her telling that story in front of the child. And then we need mom to apologize for the appendicitis.
Okay.
And by that, the mom's going to come in and really say to the kiddo, I'm so sorry that I had to leave you. I wish I could have been there. And the reason is because at 11, there's no abstract. There's a little bit could be coming on at 11 years of age, but more than likely, there's no nothing coming in at that moment abstractly. So the kid's not able to say, oh yeah, I understand that you left me because of a medical infarct. That kid just knows you left me. So, and we want to bring the kiddo, first we want mom to be able to apologize. That's going to happen several times. And then circle back around and have the kiddo on the table and do a lot of interoceptive work. Doing left kidney, right kidney, brainstem, ankles, but then coming back in with enhancement of what part of your body do you notice most right now? Where in your body can your mind land? What are you most sensitive to? And if he says, my left foot, probably not going to say his left foot, but if he says his left foot, put your hand on his left foot. Bring all his attention and intention to the left foot. Don't go anywhere but the left foot and just stay present right there for a little period of time. And then let him go to a rest phase and say, just rest. Now I'm going to put my hand on your right foot. You let me know when you can feel my hand on your right foot, just like you felt your left. And it may be a little bit hard for you to find. And then you start bringing that feeling in. If you can't get it, go back to the left foot. Go back to what he is successful with and keep reinforcing the successful part. And he'll be able to get it better, so to speak, and he'll be able to pick up the change.
Well, thank you for that. And I want to say two things. My internet connection is unstable, so I hope I don't lose you before this last moment. He comes in, I've only seen him 2 or 3 times now before this moment with you, which would have made me start a little differently. But he has this pattern of, he's very sympathetically dominant. He likes to really move a lot. He likes to really stretch and squeeze. Like he'll squeeze his hands and he'll squeeze his eyes.
Right.
We did do table work my second time with him, and he at one point, after a lot of feeling all of this wanting to move, which we did together and normalized, he finally actually had some moments of settling, and he farted and he yawned and he let his eyes close. So I wanted to ask you, like, do I have to completely back up and kind of go back to what you're suggesting about this apology from mom?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're not backing up. You're just going to bring it in now.
Okay.
And then she's going to have to do it all through the stages of platforms. As you do that lower platform, then you go to the next platform, the next platform. Sensory issues, those should have been on board. He shouldn't have any big sensory issues going on, other than the fact that his interoception is off. But he should, is his touch and smell and sound all okay? You probably be.
I'm not sure. I'm not
Okay.
sure.
I would just have a little conversation with him while he's on the table and see, what he's considering, what he's needing the most, what
Right.
he's doing to stay safe. And sometimes with kids, I'll even do.
Well, one of the things he does to stay safe is move. He likes
Right.
to move.
Right. And I would say it's so great. I'm so glad you're moving. I'm so glad that there's a part of you that knows that if you sit still, your mom might leave again. I would really bring it back home to that mom had to leave, and really keep bringing it back into that. And then I would say, what if we took not a garbage bag, but a paper sack from the grocery, and we just cut some holes in it in therapy and put your arms through it, and you can color whatever you want on the front of that, just to create it as a protector for you so you feel safe inside. We're just creating this protection for you, to where he's going to be more aware of it.
That makes good sense. Thank you.
All right, thank you. It's always good to hear from you, Janice. And
I wish I could see you.
I wish I could see you too, because right now I don't see anyone. We are completely
black screen.
Yeah, just completely gone.
All right, sending love. Bye.
Bye. And I'm going to say to everyone, this concludes for today. We will be sending out notice when we're going to do another free consultation. You're welcome to email me and schedule a regular consultation. If you had something bigger going on, we'll do the best we can to get you on our books. I'm sorry about the visual piece that has occurred, but we will be sending this out. Hopefully it recorded all the way through. And if you have any questions about anything I said during the consult, feel free to reach out. And next time we will get to the questions a little bit quicker. Just wanted to lay some groundwork over what happens with homeostasis and why clients appear not to be healing as fast as we would like. Very grateful for all of you, and I wish you all the best of the day, and we will be sending this out soon. Hopefully it's recording. Right now it's showing me everything is frozen, so we will find out pretty soon. It takes about an hour to come through. All right, thank you all, and have a great day. I cannot sign out. I hope you can. My system won't even let me sign out right now. So go ahead and disconnect the best you can. Thank you so much for showing up. Hope to see you in the future.